21-year-old Nashawn Ware has been arrested after an accidental shooting killed 22-year-old Tjanae Stevens. At around 3:15 p.m. on Saturday the 10th of May, authorities responded to a residence in the 7900 block of South Essex Avenue in Chicago, Illinois and reports of a person shot. When officers arrived, they found Tjanae deceased with a gunshot wound to her head. Nashawn, who lived in the unit, was at the scene and indicated that he was a participant in Tjanae's death. He told investigators that they were playing around with a gun when it suddenly went off. Nashawn was arrested and charged with involuntary manslaughter. He was also charged with obstruction of justice for hiding a gun which police recovered at the scene. Nashawn appeared in the Cook County courtroom where the judge sent him home on electronic monitoring with a daily curfew. A St. Louis, Missouri woman faces serious charges after causing a multi-vehicle crash while intoxicated and abandoning her 2 injured children. At around 7 a.m. on Monday the 12th of May, Courtney Brown abruptly stopped in the middle of Interstate 270 near Missouri 367 when a motorist behind sideswiped a vehicle in the attempt to swerve out of the way. The driver who struck Courtney's car stopped and walked to the woman's vehicle, where she found the woman's 2 children aged 3 and 8 sitting unrestrained in the passenger seat. A second vehicle then collided with Courtney's vehicle, sending it careening across the highway and into a third oncoming car. As officers arrived on scene, Courtney proceeded to walk away from the crash site despite orders to return. First responders found the 2 children unconscious and suffering serious injuries, lying across the center console, and they rushed to hospital where they remain intubated. A Missouri state trooper detained Courtney about a mile from the scene of the accident and noticed that she had a relaxed demeanor, slow deliberate movements, watery and bloodshot eyes and confused speech. She was taken to a nearby hospital where cannabis and amphetamines were found in her system. Courtney was arrested and charged with 2 counts of driving while under the influence with serious injury, 3 counts of leaving the scene of an accident, 1 count of operating a vehicle on a highway without a valid license, and 2 counts of child welfare endangerment. She was booked into the St. Louis County Jail, but has since posted a $100,000 bond. Her preliminary hearing is scheduled for the 2nd of June. 34-year-old Jacqueline Popaibarra is behind bars for setting a homeless woman on fire. At around 9:30 p.m. on Saturday the 26th of April, authorities responded to the area of 17th Avenue and Stockton Boulevard in South Sacramento, California, on a report of a woman who had been set on fire. When officers arrived on scene, they found the victim, a 49-year-old homeless woman suffering from severe burns. Fire department personnel transported the victim to hospital. The victim had burns to approximately a third of her body, including her face, torso, arms and back. Once at the hospital, she was intubated for several days, where she was unable to speak or provide a statement. Officers interviewed several witnesses at the scene, who saw the incident and helped extinguish the victim when she was on fire. During the investigation, detectives identified 34-year-old Jacqueline Popaibarra as the suspect. After reviewing surveillance video and speaking to witnesses, they learned that Jacqueline drove to where the victim had set up to sleep for the night and began a verbal argument. She then threw an unknown liquid believed to be a fire accelerant onto the victim, then set her on fire. Bystanders helped to put out the fire when Jacqueline began to kick the victim before fleeing in the vehicle. On Tuesday the 13th of May, detectives were able to finally speak with the victim, who positively identified Jacqueline as her assailant. Authorities said that the 2 women knew each other, but Jacqueline was not experiencing homelessness. The Sacramento Police Department said that Jacqueline has since been arrested for an unrelated robbery charge and that detectives had booked her for felony charges of attempted murder and arson related to the fire attack. She remains held at the Sacramento County Jail on a $400,000 bond. 40-year-old Sara Elizabeth Lee is behind bars for assaulting a man. At around 11:55 p.m. on Sunday the 11th of May, authorities responded to a residence on B. Clark Road in Gainesville, Georgia on reports of domestic violence. When officers arrived, they found a male victim with an injury to his forehead. Authorities said that Sara punched the victim, then grabbed him around the neck from behind, choking him until he briefly lost consciousness. Emergency medical personnel evaluated the victim, but he refused transport to a hospital. Sara was arrested and charged with felony aggravated assault and misdemeanor battery. She remains held at the Hall County Jail without bond. 33-year-old Drew Garnier will spend 3 decades behind bars for killing his pregnant wife, 29-year-old Samantha Garnier, and injuring his 2 daughters. On the 13th of May 2025, Drew appeared at the Delaware County Court in New York, where a judge sentenced him to 30 years in prison, followed by 15 years of post-release supervision. He previously pleaded guilty in March to first-degree manslaughter and 2 counts of first-degree assault. At 11:29 p.m. on the 4th of September 2024, authorities responded to a home on Halk Road in Masonville, New York on report of a domestic dispute. When officers arrived, they entered the premises and found Samantha, who was 5 months pregnant, unresponsive with multiple stab wounds. Medics rendered aid and she was airlifted to a hospital, where she and her unborn daughter died. Drew's 2 daughters, aged 6 and 9, were also transported to a hospital with stab injuries but survived. Drew later admitted to stabbing his wife and 2 daughters inside their home. During Drew's sentencing, Samantha's father made an impact statement and said he believed the murders had been motivated by the gender of the unborn child, saying he wanted a boy. The father also said the girls had been traumatized by the incident, but he has since adopted them. 34-year-old Michael James Jordan has been charged in a quadruple homicide. At just after 6:45 p.m. on the 4th of April, authorities responded to a mobile home along the 1000 block of Gaines Drive in Perry, Georgia to complete a welfare check following a disturbance and found 4 people dead inside. The victims spanned 4 generations and were identified as 82-year-old Beulah Robinson, her daughter 51-year-old Michelle Joyner, granddaughter 37-year-old Taekwondo Robinson, and 2-year-old Alea Joyner. An autopsy determined that 3 of the victims were stabbed and 1 was suffocated. Authorities identified Michael as a person of interest in the case on the 17th of April. Family members said that Michael dated one of the women and briefly lived inside the home. Authorities said that Michael was originally arrested on separate charges shortly after the killing, including drug charges and aggravated stalking charge, and he's been in custody since his arrest on the night of the 4th of April. On Thursday the 15th of May, Michael was additionally charged with 4 counts of murder and aggravated assault among other charges. He remains held at the Houston County Jail without bond. 32-year-old Jenna Wynn-Howard killed a woman and injured 2 others after she drove at 102 miles per hour in a 35 mile per hour zone. On Saturday the 10th of May, authorities responded to 911 calls involving a multi-vehicle crash in the 4300 block of North 76th Street in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. One of the callers told the dispatcher that the crash involved 3 cars, and one of them was split in half, while another caller said the crash involved a rollover, and someone had been ejected from one of the vehicles. Authorities said that the 3 vehicles involved were a Jeep Wrangler, a Chevrolet Traverse, and a Jeep Patriot. The investigation revealed that the Jeep Wrangler, driven by Jenna, drove at a very high rate of speed and into the back of the Chevrolet, which was driven by Tonya Missouri Smith, who died from the injuries in the crash. Her son, who was also in the vehicle, suffered hip pain. Officials said that the Chevrolet was pushed into the back of the Jeep Patriot. The person who was in the Patriot, which ended up on its side, suffered a fractured vertebrae and was taken to hospital for treatment. An autopsy determined that Tonya's cause of death was multiple blunt force injuries consistent with a vehicular crash, including facial lacerations, brain bleeding, a severed spinal cord, and fractures to every one of her ribs as well as her sternum and pelvis. She also lacerated her aorta, lungs, liver, spleen, and intestines. Tonya's son told authorities that his mother was driving west and in the process of turning right when they were struck from behind. While at the scene, police said that Jenna opened the door to a squad car unprompted and sat in the back, and appeared to be falling asleep in the back while waiting for police. When the officer noticed what was happening and approached his car, Jenna allegedly confessed to driving the Jeep Wrangler that caused the crash, saying, "Take me to jail. I crashed that car and did I kill anybody?" Jenna was arrested and charged with 1 count of first-degree reckless homicide and 2 counts of first-degree recklessly endangering safety. On Thursday the 15th of May, she made her initial appearance in the Milwaukee County Court where a cash-only bond of $40,000 was set. She's currently being held in the Milwaukee County Jail. A 25-year-old man is behind bars for fatally shooting a 34-year-old man. At around 3:50 p.m. on Wednesday the 14th of May, authorities responded to 250 South Main Street in Spartanburg, South Carolina on reports of shots fired. Upon arrival, officers discovered an unresponsive man with multiple gunshot wounds laying along the side of the house across the street from where the shooting was reported. Medics arrived shortly thereafter and pronounced him dead. The victim was identified as 34-year-old Tyrice Eugene Ervin. The suspect, 25-year-old Dontae Keishawn Elliot, was located at the scene, and when approached he told deputies he had shot the victim and that the gun he used was on the floorboard of a car nearby. Dontae was arrested and charged with murder and possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime and remains held at the Spartanburg County Jail with bond denied. Investigators said they believe Dontae and Tyrice knew each other, though a clear motive has not yet been established. Authorities said that this was not a random act. We're continuing to investigate the relationship between the two individuals and what led to this deadly outcome. The incident is being treated as a targeted act of violence. A school crossing guard in Altoona, Pennsylvania is behind bars after a 15-year-old girl came forward about him repeatedly assaulting her in his garage last year. On the morning of Wednesday, the 14th of May 2025, 73-year-old Ronald Richard Rossman was arraigned in the Blair County Court on multiple charges including rape. On the 20th of August 2024, authorities were called to the UPMC hospital in Altoona for a report of a past assault. When they arrived, they found a 15-year-old victim and her mother. The teen identified Ronald as the suspect, saying they were neighbours and she knew him as a school crossing guard. Officers noted that the teen, who has developmental delays, had difficulty understanding certain aspects of the officer's questions. However, family service advocates were able to help. The teen explained that on the 23rd of July, she went for a walk and saw Ronald outside. She then stopped to see if there were any chores she could help him with. The teen said that Ronald took her to a garage and locked the door behind them. He then forced himself on her and assaulted her in the bed of his truck inside. She told police she tried to kick him away but couldn't. Police learned this happened multiple times, with the most recent incident happening on the 12th of August 2024. She described other incidents where he used a candlestick on her and forced her to perform acts on him. Investigators learnt that Ronald had allegedly made the teen take a pregnancy test. The teen then sent the photo of it to her mother, ultimately leading her questioning her daughter and discovering what happened. Police spoke to Ronald at the Altoona police station, where he said that the teen would often stop by and do chores like weeding in the yard. Ronald denied the allegations and accused the girl of being promiscuous and exposing herself to him. He admitted to buying a pregnancy test, claiming the girl insinuated she was pregnant. He went on to explain that they would play around and smack each other's butts. Investigators noted that he claimed he never let the teen in his garage because he didn't want anyone to think something was going on, then contradicted the statement by saying there were times that they were in the garage together. In the garage, police found various items that were described by the victim such as lotions, marijuana, a candlestick and alcohol. Police said that the victim's DNA was also found in several areas around the garage, including a folding table which she alleged she was assaulted on. Ronald was arrested and placed into the Blair County Jail with bail set at $250,000. A preliminary hearing is scheduled for the 28th of May. Ronald's status with the school district as a crossing guard is currently unknown. 22-year-old Nathan Lee Bridges is behind bars after police found a toddler injured inside a home. On the 1st of May, authorities responded to the 1000 block of Ellsworth Avenue in Columbus, Ohio to check on the well-being of a juvenile after receiving a 911 call. Arriving officers learnt that a 2-year-old boy was left at the house the previous night by Nathan. The juvenile had significant external injuries and was taken to the Nationwide Children's Hospital for treatment. The boy had bruising scattered all over his body, a liver laceration and fractures to his spine and jaw. Authorities said that the injuries were potentially life-altering. Investigators said that Ava Himmelwright, a friend of the boy's mother who made the 911 call, said that Nathan had dropped the child off after stating that the mother was arrested earlier that evening. Nathan told Ava he was dropping off the child because he didn't know how to change diapers. Ava reportedly asked Nathan twice about the boy's visible injuries, and he pretended not to hear the question. Detectives interviewed the mother of the child, who confirmed she had left him in Nathan's care, and that her son was happy when she left for the evening. Authorities said that Nathan did not attempt to contact or seek help for the child. On the 13th of May, SWAT officers arrested Nathan without incident. He's charged with endangering children, and he's held at the Fairfield County Jail on a $500,000 bond. Authorities said that the child remains at hospital and is now showing signs of improvement. The relationship between Nathan and the mother and child is unclear, as investigation into the matter continues.